After 6 weeks of testimony, a Steuben County jury will decide the fate of Thomas Clayton. Yeah, Nick and Renata, I'm on Wood Street, which is just outside the village of Bath. And this area you can see here behind me is where state police say that somebody found human remains. And Jesse says once he got into the bar area, he noticed this ATM machine was down on the ground, and he could tell that the burglars had used a crowbar to pry it open, and you can still kind of see some of the damage done to the machine. Yeah, Renata, I met with the Elmira police earlier today, and they say they're looking for 27-year-old Zachary Banks of Elmira as a person of interest. And this former liquor store that caught fire about 5 years ago is just one of the businesses that will be getting tens of thousands of dollars towards revitalization. Not too much hustle and bustle out on the track right now, but in about a half an hour, the Sprint Cup Series are going to get their first turn out there. Families whose children had been murdered, each taking to the stand to share their story. One of those families was the Roby family of Savona. After 6 weeks, more than 75 witnesses and 500 pieces of evidence, the jury began deliberating it yesterday morning around 10:30. And after roughly 7 hours, they reached their verdict of guilty. WENY's Logan Wilson has been following this case from the beginning and joins us now from the Steuben County Courthouse. Logan, very emotional day here at Ithaca College as the campus is mourning the loss of sophomore 19-year-old Anthony Nazar. And whether you're a pro or have never even touched a poker chip before, the instructors say anyone can learn to be a dealer. Darlene says this new facility is 3 times as big as their old one and will allow them to serve a limitless amount of people. And we do have a breaking news update regarding the fire that destroyed the Wisner Park nativity scene. Now, police say that another race, another 50 to 60,000 people, and another 30 to 40 million dollars for the state of New York, all thanks to the Indy Grand Prix happening this weekend at WGI. This holiday season, Tanner's Paws is partnering up with Santa himself to bring a little Christmas joy into your home. Yeah, Renata, with her gas mask packed and enough protein bars to live off of for 4 days, Trumansburg resident Colleen Bolin is heading to North Dakota in an effort to block construction of the oil pipeline.
Well, yesterday, thousands of runners flocked to Corning to run in the 35th annual Wine Glass Marathon. Each and every person running for a different reason. And for Pine City native Holly Hughes, that reason was her son. WENY's Samantha Potter sat down with Hughes today about her journey to get her son Jonah over the finish line.
Renata, the task of running a marathon can be additional weight on any runner's shoulders, but for Holly Hughes, that weight was real, both physically and emotionally, as she pushed her son 26.2 miles.
Growing up in a running family, 6-year-old Jonah Hughes says his dream is to run in a marathon.
And he came home and he had asked my husband and myself if we thought he would be able to run in heaven someday. And my husband and I, told him, no, you can run here. You can run here. And he said he wanted to run Wine Glass Marathon.
And despite being bound to a wheelchair, yesterday that dream came true. Jonah was born with epilepsy and cerebral palsy, among other health issues. The community raised more than $6,000 to buy the running chair, and since March, the pair have been training in other small races to prepare for the Wine Glass.
During the race, he'll always look at it and be like, Mom, you have to run faster. You have to catch that person. Or he'll tell me, power up and energize, Mom. So, it's really encouraging the whole time. So it was really incredible.
Yesterday was Holly's 5th marathon and first one running with a partner. Unlike past races when she was running for herself, she says yesterday was all for him.
But coming down Market Street, and I looked up and the crowd was incredible. Our Jonah's Journey supporters were there in purple. They were just screaming so loud, and I knew, we're done, and we ran faster than I ever thought we could possibly run together.
And fast may be an understatement. The pair ran the 26.2 miles in 3 hours, 10 minutes, and 43 seconds, unofficially beating the record for the fastest female runner with a stroller by nearly 7 minutes.
And we crossed the finish line, and I put the medal around his neck, and it was everything. He's a marathon runner. It's really cool.
And Holly told me their next journey is to take on the Boston Marathon. Reporting in the studio, Samantha Potter, WENY News.
Overdoses in the United States are the leading cause of accidental deaths, beating out car crashes. Specifically, in 2014, nearly 30,000 people died from opioid overdoses. These alarming statistics have influenced law enforcement to start carrying a life-saving drug that reverses the effects of opioids. WENY's Samantha Potter looked into the increased use of Narcan and its impact on our community. Samantha.
Renata, as we've reported in the past, this nationwide epidemic of addiction to opioids like pain relievers and heroin is a problem we very much face right here at home. In the last year, here in the Southern Tier, the drug Narcan has been used more than 300 times by law enforcement and EMTs. And if you think about that, that's potentially 300 people who are still here today because first responders chose to carry the drug.
It's something EMTs have been carrying for decades.
This is magic. It's not a medicine because you can take somebody who isn't breathing, has little to no pulse, if any, from blue and gray in color to, would probably die, to somebody that sits up in a few seconds and says, hey, what's going on? Why are you here?
In our community, that's a scenario that's happened more than 1,000 times, mostly for opioids like heroin and prescription painkillers. I pulled numbers from the New York State Department of Health from June 2014 to September 2016. In Chemung County, EMTs have used Narcan 381 times, in Steuben 153 times, in Tioga 87 times, in Tompkins 374 times, and in Yates County it's been administered 40 times. Rick Kimball, the director of personnel at Irway Ambulance, says sometimes they're administering Narcan to the same person twice in one day.
When we give them the Narcan, it takes their high away. And for the most part, the Narcan outlasts the heroin, so they've lost their high, so they're just going to get high again.
According to the U.S. Surgeon General, 250 million prescriptions for opioids are written every year. Think about that. That's enough for every adult in America to have a bottle of pills and then some. And 75% of heroin addicts say they use prescription opioids before turning to heroin.
The problem with heroin is it's not the typical crackhead drug user that you can identify. These are people that range from 13 to 80 that get addicted to a legally prescribed pain medication that has opiate in it, to now they're going to heroin because it's a cheaper option.
Last year, the Steuben County Sheriff's Office began carrying Narcan and have had 4 saves.
I arrived on scene. There was a 20-year-old male. He was with a few friends, so they were able to tell me that he had taken some type of opiate. So at that point I knew by their description of that and basically his labored breathing that he was overdosing.
For Deputy Brooke Payne, she says she got to feel the gratitude of saving a life firsthand while speaking at an addiction awareness meeting in Steuben County.
At that point, a male and a female stood up, and I had no idea who they were. And they just explained to me that they were the parents of that male, and they just basically said, thank you for saving our son. Like, you don't know how much that meant to us.
Once Narcan is administered, the person wakes up and they're allowed to refuse medical treatment and not go to the hospital, essentially leaving the addict in the same environment. The Chemung County Sheriff's Office recently started the Operation Hope program. After reviving the addict, the sheriffs work with the person to offer resources and help for their addiction.
That's our whole purpose for the Hope Initiative, was to, if we can save at least one life, it's worth it at that point. If we can get one person off their addiction and into recovery, it's a success for us.
At the end of the day, that's somebody's sister or daughter or brother that we're saving. So it's important because it's not just, some person off the street that we don't care about. Every person has a family and has a future. So we're here to help that.
And first responders aren't the only people allowed to carry Narcan. Many law enforcement offices and addiction counseling centers offer free Narcan training and kits to the public. To find a place near you, you can visit our website, WENY.com. Reporting in the studio, Samantha Potter, WENY News.
On behalf of one local Steuben County family and hundreds of others across New York State, local lawmakers were in Albany today to push for new legislation. The bill hopes to extend the amount of time murderers and violent offenders have to wait before they can apply for parole. And for the Roby family of Savona in Steuben County, that extension means less heartache. WENY's Samantha Potter was in Albany today and spoke with the Robys on why this bill is so important to their family.
Years later, and it's still being called common sense legislation, a bill that would keep murderers and sexual predators behind bars longer. Yet some members of the New York State Assembly can't seem to agree.
The question was asked, think about the person you love the most.
Now think about losing them in a horrible, horrific, violent act. Now think about reliving that act.
For families like the Robys, that's a nightmare they relive every 18 months. Their 4-year-old son, Derek, was brutally murdered in a wooded area just outside their home in Savona in 1993. Derek's killer, 13-year-old Eric Smith, was sentenced to 9 years to life in prison, meaning Dale and Dory and other members of the Roby family are forced to relive their son's death at least every 2 years and fear his killer could walk the streets.
It's very hard because I have to kind of deal with backlash from people. A lot of people blame me for what happened, so I have to deal with that every couple years.
Which is why, with their son's picture in hand and memory always close to their hearts, they're fighting to change being forced to relive his death, with legislation to extend the amount of time violent offenders like Smith are eligible for parole from 2 years to 5 years.
Certainly this legislation is not going to fill the hole in their hearts for the loss of a loved one, but certainly can make it a little bit easier so they have to go through this ordeal every 18 months.
This is all new to us. I'm just a school teacher living in the country, but this is our opportunity to do.
Dale and Dory both say as they get ready to leave Albany and head back home, they have a good feeling this time around is the time it passes. Reporting in Albany, Samantha Potter, WENY News.